İyi akşamlar sayın seyirciler. Bugün farklı bir konuğumuz var. Konuğumuz Amerika'dan Profesör Helene Ebaugh, Houston Üniversitesi'nde sosyoloji profesörü ve profesör çok önemli bir kitap yazdı. Gülen Hareketi, inanç tabanlı bir sivil toplumsal hareketin sosyolojik analizi diye. Bu kitap bilindiği gibi Doğan Kitap tarafından Türkçe'de yayınlandı. Bugün biz bu programda bu kitabın yazarıyla bir söyleşi yapacağız. Tabii ki söyleşimiz İngilizce olacak. Welcome to our program. So let me start from this. Okay, this is interesting actually for an American academician. You wrote a book on a movement which is rooted in Islam and in Turkey. Okay, so what was the motive behind that leads you to write this book?
Well, I teach the sociology of comparative religions at the University of Houston. And in fact, I was in the classroom teaching when the plane hit the World Trade Building on 9/11.
Okay.
And for those days after 9/11, many people were introduced to Islam, people who had hardly heard of the religion before, and everything was Islam and terrorism, Islam and violence, Islam and an attack on America.
Okay.
And I was very concerned to hear what we call the moderate or the nonviolent, the peaceful Muslim voice protesting those actions. And on September 21st, I saw a one-page statement in the Washington Post protesting the 9/11 events and talking about Islam as a peaceful movement, peaceful religion, signed by Fethullah Gulen, imam and scholar. And it caught my attention. And then a few years later, I began getting graduate students from Turkey, some of whom were involved in this movement.
Okay.
And several of them wanted to write theses on the movement. So I became acquainted with the movement. And then I made my first interfaith dialogue trip to Turkey in 2006. And I visited many of the schools and Sema Hospital and Samanyolu TV and Zaman newspaper. And I became very fascinated with the movements.
Okay. According to you, what makes this phenomenon as a social movement? Is it a social movement?
I think it's a social movement because it involves large numbers of people gathered together around very central issues and trying to achieve change in society.
Okay.
So it's a social movement in my estimation, and I call it a civil social movement.
Okay.
Because not only is it religious, but it's also trying to do good things in the society and improve societies.
Okay. How could you draw the line between religious and the civic? For you, it is a civic movement, yes?
I call it a civic movement rooted in Islam. It's definitely religious in its roots.
Okay.
But it's not just a religious movement to promote Islam or to proselytize, to gain converts.
Okay.
At the heart of this movement is wanting to educate young people, wanting to do good works in the society, and make society and humankind a better place to live.
Okay.
So in that sense, I think it's a civic movement.
Okay.
Unlike many religious movements whose sole purpose is to promote the faith and to proselytize the faith.
Okay. For you, this is something original, isn't it? It's rooted in a religious background, if you like, but it is a mainly civic movement.
Well, it's not the only one of its kind in the world.
Okay.
There are other similar movements historically.
Okay.
I think one of the things that makes the Gulen movement very unique is its non-hierarchical, non-bureaucratic structure.
Okay.
I think that's a very important characteristic of the movement.
Okay.
It's very difficult to know how many members there are, or to count the number of schools. because there are no central statistics. There's
Okay.
no president of the movement.
This is something positive, isn't it? According to your opinion.
I think it makes the movement very powerful. In this
Okay.
sense, the operating agenda of the movement is to move into a local area, perhaps a businessman or a student, and then to see what the needs of that local area might
Okay.
be, and then to organize the local people to define those needs and to do something about it. So the local people feel like this is their project.
All right.
Tremendous commitment to these projects because they
Okay.
belong to the local people.
Okay.
So I think that's one of the things that generates such commitment to the movement and to the projects of the
Okay.
movement.
The one important concept is the commitment. Yes, you underline in your book again. So how can you interpret this? Why people in the movement so committed to do the project, to achieve something?
I think part of it is rooted in Turkish history.
Okay.
This notion of hospitality and taking care of one's neighbor and doing good for the society. Turkish people are so hospitable. That
Thank you.
impresses a
Thank
lot of
you.
us who come to Turkey. And when Mr. Gulen began preaching in the late 60s and 70s, at first I thought he's introducing totally new ideas. But he wasn't. He was drawing upon a very rich Ottoman past
Okay.
and upon ideas that the Turkish people were very familiar with.
Okay.
So that's the first thing. The second thing is the commitment is definitely rooted in Islam.
All right.
People are giving to the movement, not only money, but time and energy, because they see this as their religious duty. They talk
Okay.
about things like, sadaqah and this whole system of vakifs and,
Okay.
and setting up good works in the society. So those kind of concepts are very, very important to the commitment dynamic, but also the sense of fellowship.
All right.
And the sense of joining with other people to do good. In my estimation, the pulse of the movement,
Okay.
at the heart of the movement,
Okay.
at least structurally, is this notion of the sohbet. People gathering together once or twice a week with fellow members, discussing ideas of Mr. Gulen, discussing interpretations of the Quran, getting to